Something interesting about perfectionists is that people think they have super high standards and only care about doing things well. But, maybe perfectionism isn't about standards at all. Maybe it's about fear. Hey there, it's Paolo. Welcome to the channel where it's all about improving your life by becoming more confident and turning failures into stepping stones to success. And today, we're talking about why perfectionism is usually just fear in disguise. For most of my life, I struggled with procrastination. I always delayed things and was always too scared to start because I was afraid I wouldn't do a good enough job. And you know what I realized over the years? That perfectionists are the exact same. Both in my personal life and through my content, I've had the pleasure of meeting and hearing from many perfectionists. And one truth has become apparent. Perfectionism simply has better branding and nicer sounding excuses. For example, when you're a perfectionist, you don't procrastinate. You strategically wait for the right moment. And it's not that you don't get anything done because you're afraid of it being not good enough. You simply have high standards. But all jokes aside, well, those weren't really jokes. Perfectionists are often just as insecure as non-perfectionists, if not even more. Because at the end of the day, perfectionism is just a shield to avoid facing your fears. If you never try, you can never fail, even though that's actually the worst type of failure. And if you always dismiss advice from people who just don't have the same high standards, you can protect yourself from the risk of having to admit you're wrong or that you need help with the thing you're doing. So yeah, you might want to stop calling yourself a perfectionist because that's not your identity. It's just a bad habit you use to protect yourself. And you can have high standards and aim for excellence without the all or nothing mentality that causes you to get stuck and not get anything done. You don't need to be a perfectionist. So here's a mindset shift that changed everything for me, and will hopefully do the same for you, whether you're a perfectionist or a regular procrastinator. In everything you do, the difference in terms of effort between doing a good enough and a perfect job is so big that obsessing over the latter is just completely inefficient. Not just because to close the 20% gap between 80 and 100 requires much more time and effort than it takes to score the initial 80, but because perfection is virtually unattainable. There will always be something that could be done better. Besides, 100% of 100 is 100, but 80% of 125 is also 100. Okay, maybe I'm making it too confusing. So imagine this. Imagine you're playing tennis and your opponent is a professional player that has won many big tournaments. Do you think they could beat you with just 80% of their power? Of course! In fact, even 10, 5 or 1% would suffice, let alone 80. Why? Because their skill level is just much higher than yours. And that's what you want to aim for in life. Not obsessing over doing everything perfectly all the time, so much that you don't get anything done ever, but focusing on improving little by little and making progress by taking action and putting yourself out there, even when it's going to be imperfect and even when you don't think the moment is right, because that's how you increase your ceiling. For example, this video you're watching right now, I'm uploading it even though I don't think it's perfect or even great. But based on my current skill level and the time and effort I put into it, I think it's good enough for me to upload it. And I have been using the same approach for every video I've uploaded so far. I've always stopped editing and polishing them when I felt they were good enough. But I hope you can see that what I call good enough right now is already better than what I used to call good enough in my first few videos. But this was only possible because instead of letting perfectionism stop me from uploading even the first video, I kept making them and improving little by little. Basically, I've increased my ceiling from 100 to 125, which is also why now I can make better videos than before, but in less time and without struggling as much. And if I keep this up, in 6 months from now, my good enough will have become even better. But I'm only going to get there if right now I keep making and uploading videos that are not perfect, but just good enough. So I guess what I'm trying to say is stop demanding perfection. Instead, focus on making progress. Because remember what we said at the beginning? If you like to always call yourself a perfectionist, then it's likely that you're not a perfectionist. You're scared. Putting your work out there even though you don't feel it's perfect. Letting yourself be criticized and judged. Taking action when you don't know if it will go well. This is all scary. And I suppose that adopting a perfectionist identity does feel comfortable and maybe even something kind of to be proud of. But it doesn't remove the fear. In fact, it makes it worse because if you convince yourself that you are not scared and simply have high standards, then you can't work toward solving the problem because there's no problem to be solved. And that's what perfectionism does. It protects you from pain and fear by preventing you from ever facing them and ever getting anything actually done. But that's the same as giving up, as giving in to fear, no matter how nicely you package it. So stop waiting and go pick one thing you've been avoiding all this time, be it a personal project or your next university exam if you're still studying, and do it even if it's imperfect. Of course, still try your best, because trying your best while being willing to accept an imperfect result is how you improve fast, while being a perfectionist is how you get stuck at zero. Thanks for watching. I hope you got something useful out of this video, and you may also like this other video on 3 ways you might be sabotaging yourself. And I'll see you in the next one.